right, also tonight, Christine Blasey Ford's legal team releasing the results of a polygraph test she took in August. The former FBI agent who administered that polygraph test, Jeremiah Hanifin, I think he likes to go by Jerry, is here to describe that session and tell us what Ford told him. Great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Shannon.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of things. You've been doing this since 1995.
Yes.
I understand you spent about an hour and a half to 2 hours with Dr. Ford in this process and only asked 2 questions.
Yes.
So we'll get to that. But part of it was getting her written statement, which I think we can put up for folks. But also you did an interview with her about all of these allegations before you then administered the test. First of all, how were you approached about the test? How does that work? Who pays for it?
Sure. Believe it or not, it was Monday night, August 6th, about 8 o'clock at night. I got a call from Deborah Katz and Lisa Banks. I had done some work for them in the past, and they asked if I could do a polygraph test the next day. I told them I had a commitment. I could do it later on in the afternoon. And they said they had a client who was in from out of town that was leaving later on, early in the afternoon. If there was any way, they said it was important, any way I could try to rearrange my schedule. So I did. I was able to rearrange my schedule for the next day. I called them back, and I said I could do it the next morning. And that's when they told me about the facts, that they had a client who was making allegations that back in high school that she was assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh. So we discussed the details that night, and we discussed the questions that we both thought were appropriate to ask in these situations. I've done these kind of tests before with victims, and normally what we'll have them do is write out a statement about the facts. So my introduction to this case was 12 hours before I actually conducted the polygraph.
So does it work that her law firm pays for your services?
Yes,
okay.
And it's done because you want to maintain that attorney-client work product privilege.
Okay. Okay, so she, in addition to providing the written statement, which we've put up, and it basically tracks with the facts that we've heard publicly for the most part,
yes.
You did and then spent quite a bit of a time with her doing an additional interview before you would get to the part where you'd actually ask her the questions. So I want to ask you about a few of the things that are in your summary. In the summation at one point, you say, she states Mark was laughing, meaning Mark Judge, and coaxing Kavanaugh on. This is the period where she says Kavanaugh was on top of her. Blasey recalls making eye contact with Mark and thinking he may help her. Did she explain that at all, where she felt, through most of her account, that he was a bad actor? Is there a reason that she felt like making contact with him in some way would help her?
My understanding, and again, it's just my talking with her. I think when she said she made eye contact, she thought legitimately maybe he, and I think she said at some point I think he was conflicted. I thought maybe he was going to try to help me. When you do your interview before the polygraph, especially on a victim, you don't ask a lot of follow-up questions. Okay, it's kind of a heinous thing that's happened that they're alleging. Okay, she was interviewed in depth the day before by Lisa and Debbie, I'm assuming, and so you want to get the general facts. So to continue to ask questions and pry, you don't want someone to get too emotional, especially a victim. So when you ask that question, which is a good question, no, I just let her state the narrative.
Okay. She also said, according to your summation, on a couple of occasions, Mark would come over and jump on the bed while this was all playing out.
Yes.
The last time he did this, all 3 became separated and Blasey was able to get free and run to the bathroom. I've always been intrigued by this. Did she say that he was piling onto the 2 of them? He was jumping on the bed separately? Did you get any indication to that?
You know, I think at one point that she told me during the interview that, he would jump on the bed, and sometimes I think the phrase she used is kind of, hit each other a little bit, and then he would jump off. And the third...
He and Brett, Mark and Brett.
Brett, yes, exactly. And then the third time, apparently he jumped on the bed. It caused some separation as she described, in the pile, which she said, I don't know if it was my strength that was enabling me to get off, or it was just that I was free, and they were so inebriated that I was able to go into the bathroom and lock the door.
Okay, but there was something going on between Brett and Mark that may have been horseplay or something like
that?
Yeah,
I would describe it probably as horseplay. Yes.
Okay, because she describes him, too, as laughing, that they were laughing through this whole thing,
right.
But she felt in fear for her life, is in the statement that she has to you at one point. So these are the 2 questions that you, after she put together the statement and then you interviewed her, these are the 2 questions you asked. Is any part of your statement false? She said no. Did you make up any part of your statement? Her answer was no. I don't know a lot about polygraph tests, but to me, reading this from the outside, it seemed that I would expect many more questions. Is this standard to just have the 2?
Yes, it is. And especially when you do victims, it's very rare in law enforcement. I spent most of my career in working with the FBI. You don't normally give polygraph tests to victims. You represent victims, okay, and you believe them unless you have some corroborating evidence that there's something about this person's allegations that you found some corroborate that you don't believe. So when you do polygraphs, the most valid polygraph test, Shannon, is what we call a specific issue polygraph. It's this U-phase polygraph examination. It's taught at the Department of Defense Polygraph Institute. You're addressing one issue. The one issue here is her statement, okay? And you have to address that one issue only asking two questions. So the protocol that I followed, people think I'm going to come in and take a polygraph. He's going to ask me 10 questions. Okay?
Was it Brett Kavanaugh? Are you telling
Did
the
this
truth
happen?
about him?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But you just look at the overall statement
you look
and then
at
you
the
ask the two
overall
questions.
and you ask two questions, and that is the most validated polygraph test.
Is it possible for someone to pass a polygraph test based on the conviction that they believe what they're telling you is true? You're not getting to the veracity of what they're saying. You're getting to their belief about what they've told you.
Right, exactly.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for coming in, Jerry. It's great to meet you.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you, too.